Live, and we are live. Welcome to another episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here and around the world. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe, and let's get started. And we're back. Thank you again for joining me today. So today is May the 5th, 2023. Now, in this year's episode, we'll be discussing some interesting things that's been going on this past week or so. None more so than the first one. Again, a lot of studios, companies have been taking advantage of very popular IPs from the movies or even the gaming genre to translate into a TV series now. That's a great source of content to gather from. But the problem is it could be a hit or miss. And as you can see, you have Halo, just to name a few. You have the Marvel series like She-Hulk was a debacle to begin with, and now Alien, the TV series. So we'll talk about will they follow the same storyline as Amanda Ripley was from the film, or will they deviate or create something totally different as long as there's an alien, character or alien antagonist attached to it. Anyway, so next we'll be discussing about. I didn't know that Apple has been diversifying its business portfolio in terms of uh, offering financial services, in terms of banking services, credit card services for Apple users, which I think is a great it's a great boon for Apple users, which is a plenty, especially in the North American region. So we'll talk about that. Is it pricingly competitive? Does it make sense for users, or should banking the banks, big banks, be worried about what Apple is doing here, encroaching in their services? And then next is we'll be talking about aviation in terms of how the FAA has now considered that the normal flight plan typically is hovering around 18,000 feet meters above the air, and it's considered congestive already, so they considering moving it a bit higher so that there are ample space for airplanes to maneuver, which we'll talk about that in a bit. And next is we'll be talking about again another cybersecurity concerns with big large multinational companies. In this case, telecommunications giant T-Mobile has experienced another data breach, which is very concerning regarding the users' information being hacked, meaning could be shared, could be profited from that, and that's never a good thing for any individual users. And lastly, we'll be talking about some local news in terms of the concerning rises COVID number of rising number of COVID cases here in the Philippines, which is obviously it's not as severe as when the pandemic started, but well, we've moved past beyond. Many of our citizens have been vaccinated, but still not enough. That's why the cases are steadily rising. Or is there a new variant that we need to take a look at here? Anyway, so for our first topic, as mentioned earlier, a lot of studios, streaming services are capitalizing on many popular IPs that they bought, that they had, so that they can translate those success into a TV show, which I think is interesting, and especially for the Alien franchise. Now, obviously, the film itself has been fledgling this, recent iterations, none more so compared to the first one, which I think still the best compared to the later ones. But translating to the TV series, obviously you have to expand the narrative here. Would it make sense, and who's going to be playing the main protagonist here? So let's take a look at what the studio is offering here. So let's see. So in this case, according to IGN, it mentions that the Alien TV series finally was able to find its lead actor. Noah Hawley's Alien series appears to have its lead. FX has confirmed that Sydney Chandler, will star in the secretive FX project, which is set to begin production this year. Little known about Chandler's role in the TV series, though you can bet that she'll be playing a new character. since Holly previously confirmed that the new series won't be a Ripley story. But the problem is, so this is what Miss Chandler looks like. But if it's not going to be similar to Amanda Ripley, the fact you have a female protagonist will always be compared to that one, and how you're going to incorporate the storyline that makes sense, similar to a movie, and now you're going to expand on that, and obviously you're going to have supporting cast, and which I don't know if it's going to cast a shadow on the main character here because we don't know who the character is, and you need to build it up, and that takes a lot of time and effort to do that. I think I would have stuck with the main character Amanda Ripley reimagined in a TV series to see how it would be presented here. But you know, one can be hopeful in terms of its presentation since it's FX that's going to what do you call this? That's going to head or produce the show, not Paramount or even Amazon, which is the debacle of the Lord of the Rings TV show. Anyway, so the question here is what type of character will she play, and has to be realistic. Cannot be too overpowering because obviously that would be akin to similar to a Superman problem. And if it's too weakly, then it won't be believable in terms of the narrative. That's why I think if they're going to redo the Alien series, I think the franchise that best suits is similar to how Dead Space works. If they were going to convert that to a TV series, I think that would be a perfect choice, and similar to how the character is a silent protagonist, but obviously finding the right actor would be important. And the case for HBO's The Last of Us is staying true to the gameplay here, but the problem is when season 2 of The Last of Us rolls around, that's going to create a lot of controversy. And again, would people watch it, or will be the demise already of because of what the controversy brought about in the game itself, now translated to the TV series, which are going to expand it for 2 seasons, I think. So the question here is for the TV show of Alien, how are they going to do that? Is it going to be a drama sort of survival horror drama? I think what type of genre they're going to portrays maybe similar to how The Walking Dead looks like. There's real people drama, but with the backdrop of the alien antagonist looming in the background here. I think that would work best for the show's success, which is I hope they could do justice for the franchise. Anyway, segueing to finance, as mentioned earlier, where it's interesting that I didn't know that Apple is foraying into the finance aspects, obviously with the capability of their smartphone devices, and then attach that with the software Apple apps in their embedded in their devices. It obviously makes sense for them to capitalize on the different services that they can offer, and in this case, offering financial services, payment services, banking services that could give them a plethora of new stream of revenue in this case. So here we have, according to the article here at gizmodo.com, so people nearly put 1 billion into Apple savings account in the first 4 days alone. So imagine if you're Apple, you have that extra billion, you can invest it for the growth of your businesses here. And obviously, is it any different from other banking services that Apple is offering, or is it just the convenience? Since you already have your phone, you have the app, and now you have the ability to borrow money, to pay the money, and all in one umbrella here. Now, obviously, that's good for the company. Now, obviously, could be detrimental for consumers because you're left with limited to no choice as to you're stuck in that ecosystem here. So we'll see. Anyway, so it mentions Apple's new savings account opened mid-April with a 4.15% yield, and has already drawn 240,000 accounts from among its 2 billion iPhone users. So which is still a measly start, but obviously the goal there is to increase it significantly to reach 2.4 billion users worldwide here. And I think that's the goal there, and I think they can reach it if they can make sure the system is flawless, convenient, and even comparable to banking services, to major banks. I think they're going to make a case for as a better alternative compared to traditional banks in the United States. It mentions here that they launched its new high yield savings last month and saw a close to 1 billion in deposits in less than a week alone. So 240,000 accounts have already signed up for the services. Obviously, Apple fans, just to start a few, but if they were able to roll out, an effective, seamless transition, I think more users or Apple users will sign up for the services. It mentions here new savings accounts cannot exceed 250,000 per federal deposit insurance, corporation's insurance limit. So if users are depositing several thousands dollars into their new accounts on average, so meaning they have a lot of cash, lying around here. Now, what's interesting here is Apple's laptop business hasn't been doing too well, considering it's already 2023. But I think that the whole focal point is their main core business is the Apple iPhone, and supplementing it with many devices that would enhance the experience. So they're not so much reliant on the desktops or the laptop computers, but offering them a plenty, enhances or engages the users themselves, so that they are, I won't say stuck, but they will be less inclined to leave the platform as use, let's say, Android as an alternative to using Apple devices here. Now, let's see here. So the savings account with an annual interest rate of 4.15%, when the annual rate is just 0.24% according to bank rate. And Apple's willingness to buy anything from the Cupertino is what they're, I think, banking on, so that it convinces more users to use not just their devices, their technology. Now, in terms of finance, I think it's a great strategy for the company here. Now, how did they entice other users? I think 2 billion is still a lot of users, but they could always get more users here. Anyway, segueing now to aviation, as mentioned earlier, the interesting thing here is obviously with the resumption of our daily lives, since we've been past the pandemic. We're still going on, but we've already adjusted to a new normalcy of sorts. Travel has been a boon, and I was lucky enough to travel late last year, going abroad. Now, obviously, with the resurgence of flight all around the world, what's interesting, according to FAA, or the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States, is launching a faster, higher altitude flight routes to avoid congestion along the East Coast. And is it that congested to be considering having higher altitudes, so that different layers or different altitudes for planes to traverse? Meaning, are there that many airplanes traveling all around the world at the same time here? Anyway, it mentions here that the FAA has launched nearly 170 new flights routes along the congested eastern United States. And normally, the routes are above 18,000 feet, as mentioned earlier. Now, the aim to reduce crowding on popular paths, obviously, either you reduce the flights or you have different tiers of flights. So let's say one is at 18,000, another is 28,000 or 30,000, several thousands. There should be a buffer that to avoid any chances of bumping into each other, which could be catastrophic if that were the case here. But one of the main problems that they have to address is they have to deal with staffing shortage, which I think is not just for the FAA, but for the airline crews, ground crews, and even pilots we were discussing before. They had to let go some of them, which was a terrible decision. Now they had to hire new one, inexperienced at that, and you lose out on those expert pilots that has to move on to a different company, which is the benefit of the other companies there. Anyway, so it has prompted airlines to scale back summer schedules in the New York area. So you can see here, you do either of two things. Either you hire more people, obviously you have to pay more, or you reduce the workload by hiring fewer people. But obviously, when the peak travel season comes around, especially holiday summers or even Christmas season, the delay could be catastrophic. And I've seen delays, normal delays here in our country. For example, the normal flight, you're supposed to be at the airport by 3 hours the very least. And I can just imagine where the congestion is. Is it in the check-in at the counter, or is it from the counter going to the boarding gate? Takes you 3 hours to be able to do that, passing through customs, going through the lounge area, and then going to the boarding gate. I don't think that should take you 3 hours to do that process, right? The fact that they are asking you to take as much time could be, not an enjoyable experience, regardless of what type of airfare you paid for your flight here. Anyway, it mentions here, according to FAA, that there is a 7-year effort to redraw the high altitude route maps for planes. So mostly above the 18,000 feet, which is the cruising altitude, to aim reduce congestion. And obviously, uh, heck, did I lose the power? There you go. I lost my mouse. Anyway, to lose some congestion here. Now, the change should help prevent delays in giving the agency more capacity to direct traffics in specific routes based on aircraft's destination. The FAA said in a release, when weather occurs, controllers will have the more flexibility finally over converging points and more flawless, what do you call this? Crap. I think I lost my battery. Wait, let me see if I have an extra battery lying around. I think my mouse. Obviously, it's now it decided to pause it. Be right back. I think we're back. Was able to get some new sets of batteries. Anyway, so we're back. So it mentions to lessen the congestions here now. The route would look something like this. It's kind of complicated, but please bear with me. So you can see here the changes, especially for the summer season, travel season, could be problematic. Not just the number of flights in and out the domestic region, but also international flights could be problematic here, and that's never an ideal scenario for the FAA if you think about it. That's why they're looking forward. And they mentioned here last year it had 1.7 million flights, more than 20% of those operated by the United States Airlines. Then we're delayed up from 1.5 million, so roughly 16% of flights in 2019 before the pandemic hit, and according to flight tracker site Flightware, 20% of U.S. flight operated flights within have been delayed according to sites data. And I think it's not just the volume of flights that could be problematic, but it's the process of checking in and getting to the gates safely and efficiently is the problem here, because too many redundancies of checking in, checking your baggage, checking. There should be a better technology to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a terrible experience, and people are paying good money to experience that, which is regardless of your stature in the society, whether you're paying affordable airfare or very expensive airfare, then you expect a better experience here. But we'll see how is this going to be implemented quickly, and will it bear any difference in the overall experience of passengers worldwide. Anyway, segueing now to cybersecurity, we were talking about earlier regarding the problems of cyber hacking in many multinational companies worldwide. And I've been a very concerned citizen in terms of, obviously, it can have a severe impact not just to the business capability but also to the individuals that are going to be affected, because your information will be shared across the world, could be bought, could be used for whatever situations, for phishing, scamming tactics, which have been rising steadily, especially here in my smartphone. I've been receiving unknown calls, messages offering many services that you've won something and so forth. And what's the scary part here, whether it's through hacking or whether the company that I'm subscribed to sold our information, because they are able to identify specifically who the individual is. And the only way they're able to do that if they have actual information from the database here, whether it's through nefarious methods or it was sold off to make a profit. Either way, which is either way kind of concerning if you think about it, how big companies like T-Mobile here had its second data breach as of this year. And leaking pins and personal information is never a good thing here. And how safe is your information? That's why with the advancements of technology, no information is safe out there, and you want to think twice what you want to store or save out there, and has to be somewhat scattered in a sense. They're not all interconnected, so that it's difficult for them to connect one information from the other and so forth. But that's just my opinion here. Anyway, the hack here affecting close to a little over 800 subscribers lasted more than a month before it was discovered, and which is the scary part here, that for companies to have IT professionals, cybersecurity experts in-house, and yet they're not able to identify or know that they're being hacked already. Imagine in your own house that people have been stealing, electricity, food, whatever the case may be, without you even knowing it. And it took them that long to be able to do that, meaning the safeguards of the company's information services infrastructure is not up to par. Obviously, if you keep on improving your technology, obviously the people who's trying to hack it tries to improve themselves. And if companies don't keep up the pace, obviously, just like with any innovation, you'll be left behind, and things like this do matter. And obviously it's going to cost a pretty penny for many companies here. And obviously, worst case scenario, your datas are not just stolen, are closed off, and you have to pay a hefty price to be able to recover those information, which is obviously a I won't say no biggie, but a no deal scenario for many of its individual. And obviously this is going to reflect poorly on the companies that's allowing their vulnerabilities to fester and to continue moving forward. It's not just, if it's just a one-time deal, you learn from it, then you move on. But if it's a second, there will be a third, a fourth, or even a fifth time. Then the question is, when will the subscribers realize that their information is not that safe anymore? So if this is happening, let's say in telecommunication, can this happen in the finance, the banking sector, real estate, and different industries all alike? So obviously, any information that's connected to the internet can be left vulnerable here, which is never an ideal situation here, in my opinion. Anyway, we'll see how this pans out. Hopefully, they can be rectified, because obviously there's room for improvement, but obviously it's going to cost a lot of money for the company, which is what they're trying to weigh here in terms of the cost benefit analysis. And then for our last story, some local news wherein cases of COVID cases has been rising steadily, which is never a good sign here. So obviously, it's not as severe as dire as when the pandemic happened a few years back, but still, there could be severe consequences, not just to the individual, but to the companies, the businesses that's going to be affected. We don't want a repeat of what happened when we try to resume operations for our businesses here. And obviously, if individuals are not able to go out, do their normal activities, business could be hurt. Then business has to shut down, let go of employees, which is a recipe for disaster for any economy in this matter. Now, according to philstar.com, the cases has risen by as much as 4,456 infections recorded in the last week of April, as case rises here, which is quite concerning. Is it because of a new virus has been spreading, or is it not the majority hasn't been vaccinated still? And obviously, having the herd mentality or population is very critical to ensure the safety of the entire nation here. And I don't know where we are in terms of that information, because I think it's only a small percentage of the entire population. And take note, we are 100 million strong Filipinos here. And if it's less than 50%, let's say less than 50 million that's been vaccinated, that's not going to be enough. And obviously, when it spreads, could be critical to many individuals that who have not yet been vaccinated, which is always concerning here, whether it's in the city where it's more highly dense compared to provincial areas where it's highly scattered, the population, but still people could still be infected and can have severe consequences, which we want to avoid here altogether. Obviously, we don't want a repeat of what happened with the lockdown that occurred for several months that did not even achieve its goal. Was it even necessary? Because if people were following a set of being responsible, being careful, we could still do our normal activities, but obviously with the mask, the facial, and whatnot. And I'm not missing those days of wearing the face mask, but the face shield, but the face mask is still mandatory. But for other nations, it's not already required anymore, because obviously their confidence in people getting vaccinated for the majority of the population has already been implemented effectively. So I think we're still way behind in terms of the effectiveness here, which is hopefully this doesn't cause any critical impact to our hospitals. Obviously, if a lot of people were infected and they have to get confined all at the same time, could hamper the capability of our healthcare services here, which is hopefully more often it's not as severe as compared to before, but still you wanna side on cautions to avoid this, and hopefully the government is taking critical actions to address this. Otherwise, the numbers stated here, in the Philippines alone has confirmed over 4 million COVID-19 infections. So confirmed, but there could be other people, many more that were not confirmed. What's interesting, out of the 4 million that was confirmed, there were more than 66,000 deaths. Not a high number, but still 66,000 people died because of the pandemic, and that could go higher if it's left unchecked here, which is we don't want that kind of scenario occurring here. Anyway, I think that's about it for this week's discussion. If you have any questions, don't forget to leave your comments down below, and I'll try to get back to you. As always, continue supporting the channel, and for those who have continue to support the channel, thank you for your support. We'll add more content here. So for those newbies, newcomers, there's always Monday checklist and Wednesday's business update. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.